right, this is algebra. This is lesson 1.5, and we are focusing on how to solve linear equations that have variables on both sides of the equation. So we're going to be seeing that quite a bit, and we want to talk about the steps in which you can do this. So again, the little saying, don't call me after midnight, you saw that in a previous lesson, and we had the word distribute. The C is for combine like terms. The M, move variable terms to one side. And I put lowest coefficient. So this is I'm going to discuss what that means, but lowest coefficient, kind of a rule of thumb. And then you're going to add or subtract, and then multiply or divide. Now again, with these videos, if they are going too fast, which I know they will be for you to write everything down I have written down, then pause it and then continue. Don't feel like you have to keep up and get frustrated. Just hit the pause button. Okay, when you're solving equations, remember this is order of operations, the opposite order of operations, where we're trying to solve for an unknown. All right, so we have here this example, 10k plus 7 equals a negative 3 minus 10k. Well, we don't have anything to distribute, and we have nothing to combine like terms on either side, so we're going to move the variable terms to one side. Now, the variable terms are your 10k and your negative 10k. Now, you can move either one first, it doesn't matter, but I like to pick the one that's the lowest one. That way, you might not have to deal with a negative that you have to divide by. So instead of, this is a positive 10, that's a negative 10, so I'm going to add, negative 10 is lower than positive 10, so I'm going to add 10k to both sides. And when I do that, when I add 10k here, this cancels. And then I'm going to move it to here. Now, it's an equation and a balance scale. So whatever you do to one side, you have to do the other to keep it balanced. So when we have that, we then have adding 10k. So we get 20k plus 7 equals a negative 3. Well, what I did was I moved variables to one side. Then after I did that, I am now a two-step equation. So now I'm going to add or subtract, which is that was addition. So I'm going to subtract to undo what was done. So I'm going to subtract 7. So I'm going to bring down the 20k equals negative 10. Be careful here. Negative 3 minus 7. That's going further negative. It's like negative 3 degrees and it drops 7 more degrees. It's a negative 10. I'm going to divide by 20 because this is multiplication. So I'm going to undo it by the inverse operation, division. So I'm going to divide by 20, divide by 20. Be careful here. The answer is not negative 2. Make sure it is a negative 1/2. So after we subtracted or added, we multiplied or divide depending on what was happening to the variable. Okay, now checking. I would check, and you're replacing the solution in wherever the variable is. So my first line, I don't do any computation. I just replace. I just substitute in. So I'm going to have a 10 times a negative 1/2 plus 7. Does that equal negative 3 minus 10 times a negative 1/2? Well, 10 times a negative 1/2, half of 10 is 5, and a positive and a negative, when you're multiplying, it's going to be a negative. Negative 5 plus 7 is 2. Then here, be careful. That's a negative 10 times a negative 1/2. So negative 3 plus 5, half of 10 is 5, but negative times a negative is a positive. So a negative 3 plus 5 does equal 2. Okay? All right, on the back. I apologize. I recorded this entire thing without sound, so... No, I had sound. I just never hit record. So hopefully this is working. All right. So here, notice we're going to distribute. So we're going to distribute 2 first. Don't divide by 2. Some of you in the other unit was divided, or the other section was dividing by 2, which is okay in that way. But this one, if you divide it by 2, you have to divide every term by 2. So you want to distribute first. And when you distribute, you're going to have 2x plus 8 minus 5, don't forget this minus 5, bring that down, equals 6x plus 15. Bring everything down for every step that you make, you guys. Now, combine like terms. I would just combine the 8 minus 5, which is a 3. So you have 2x plus 3 equals 6x plus 15. Now, variables to one side. I like to move the 2x because that 2 is lower than 6. So I'd like to move that 2x. Not that you have to. You can do that. You can move the 6x if you want. You just get a negative 4x and then move the 3 this way. That's fine. All right, but I move the 2x to the variable term to the right. That means the constant is going to go to the left. The variable term's to one side, the constant's to the other. So you're going to subtract 15, subtract 15. 3 minus 15 is going to be a negative 12. And negative 12 equals 4x. You're going to divide by 4. And then your x is going to equal a negative 3. So after you distribute it, you're going to combine like terms. That's what CLT is. Move variable terms to one side. Add or subtract, whatever you have to do here for your two-step equation, and then multiply or divide. Okay, and then I went through and checked it. Now, when you check these, when you distribute, when I check it, I don't distribute to check. I work inside out, so there's no variable. So might as well do order of operations and do inside out. I don't like to check with distributive. You could. Mathematically, it should work as long as you do everything correctly. All right, so here's some sample problems. Now, I do have to say, here is an exception to the rule. So we have 10 minus 4x equals negative 9x. Well, if I followed my rule of moving the lowest one, I'd move the negative 9, but then everything to the same side, and that would be 0. So your balance scale would be off. I don't know if you can see both my hands. You can't, and my nails are terrible. But your balance scale would be tilted. So instead of adding the 9x, in this case, you're going to add the 4x, because that way then you have variable terms all on one side, not on the same side as your constant. So add the variable terms, and then you get 10 equals a negative 5x, divide by negative 5, and you get negative 2. And then over here, I went ahead and checked it. 10 minus 4 times a negative 8. That's a negative 4 times negative 2. That's positive 8. And 10 plus 8 is 18. Negative 9 times a negative 2 is 18. And 18 equals 18. Okay. Here are these examples, you guys. You can pause it and try yourself. And then just come back and check it if you'd like. Nothing too spectacular about number 2. I went ahead and moved the negative 10k. I added 10k. Again, you could subtract the 1 first. You could subtract the 40. You could add the 7k first. It really doesn't matter. You can do this first line 4 different ways. I just like to move the lowest term, if possible, first with the variable terms. All right, so that's going to be a negative 13. There's not going to be too exciting about that. This one, number 3, nothing too out of the ordinary. Oh, the only thing is, when you distribute, it's the funniest thing. This 1, so many people forget. When it's a 1, I don't know what happens. They bring down a 1. So make sure you do 3 times 6 and 3 times the negative 1. Okay, that should be normal. Watch your signs when you divide. So by the time you get down with that, P should equal a negative 6. Number 4, though. Number 4 is one I'm concerned about. Number 4, this is a negative 1 on the outside. So you need to distribute a negative 1 first. So you're going to have 5x minus x, but don't forget, negative times a negative is a positive. So make sure that's positive 18. And then this side, do not do 6 minus 2 is 4. Okay, make sure you distribute the negative 2 first. So you have 6 minus 2x. Negative 2 times 15 is a negative 30. Now I would combine like terms before you do anything. So up here, remember how your distributive, combine like terms? All right, so when you combine like terms, you have 5x minus x. This is like a 1x. Oops, my pen's gone. What is wrong with my pen? There it is. 1x. So 5x minus 1x is 4x. Don't put 4. It's 5x's and you take 1 away. It's 4x plus 18. Now, this is 6 minus 30. So you have a negative 2x minus 24. And then variables to one side, constants to the other. That's a negative 2x, so I'm going to add 2x. So add 2x. Okay, and by the time you're done, it should be a negative 7. Okay. Watch this, negative 24 minus 18. It goes further negative. Okay, not all these are going to be whole numbers all the time, so don't freak out if you get a fraction. Okay, that is 1.5 on how to distribute or how to solve equations with variables on both sides.